Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Alonso, and obviously Aston Martin as well, I mean, whilst we're discrediting Mercedes, we've got to give some credit to Aston Martin as well. I mean, we came to the start of the 2022 season, and that Aston Martin was literally a caravan. We're talking 8th, 9th constructors in the light championship sort of level car.
100%.
So we've gone from that level to where we stand now with Aston Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, just first of all, what on earth is that rise down to? Like, the delta between last season and this season is crazy.
2 seconds worth, some people say. So people, like we touched on earlier, Dan Fallows is a magician with all things aero, spent 14 plus years under the stewardship of a man who exhibits zero technical arrogance, in stark contrast to our mates at Mercedes, Adrian Newey. Again, Adrian Newey did his thesis at uni once upon a time on ground effect in sports cars. So if anyone in 2023 you want to have learned and spent 14 years with,
absolutely,
Adrian Newey, I don't know why we didn't, so not to take it back to Mercedes, but I don't know why Mercedes didn't sign him, but I think that is a key driver, Niran.
Yeah.
Dan Fallows is a genius, and he's not the only one. Eric Blondin is an absolute genius, according to people at the paddock, and they've signed both of those. Lots to come with the mega factory, 200 million spent by Papa Stroll. I think they're in a good place, and Alonso will help them.
Facts. I mean,
Alonso will help them.
I mean, he can get the most out of any car, even if it's a little bit shit. I mean, that Aston Martin, I think, as well, during testing, everyone was saying just like, you could see the Alpine, for example, was sort of bouncing around, not quite looking as stable. That Aston Martin looked like it was on a Scale X6 track.
Yeah, it's weird because when Alonso announced that he was going to Aston Martin at that time, Alpine obviously were a strong 4th place team, right? And you sort of thought, what the hell's going on here? But Alonso, one thing you can, in the years I've watched him, he does not deal with unserious people. He hasn't got time for it. And as soon as you're unserious, guess what?
Unserious?
He's out. He's out. He's just like, you know what? This is a clown's car we've got here. We've got a great car. It's not reliable. This is the Alpine I'm talking about. It's a great car. It's got the people around managing it. I mean, you look at Renault, right? In the past 5 years or so, it's been hilarious what's going on there, because they really should be looking at Aston Martin thinking, what the hell is this? Yeah. So when he went to Aston Martin, he's dealing with a person in the sort of Ron Dennis form of Lawrence Stroll, where he's going to take no crap, right? And straight away, the infrastructure is there. You know, what you were talking about, May 23, in terms of Silverstone, have that whole thing packaged together. They've put the puzzles together. It was just a matter of when it goes bang. That was just all. It was a matter of time. And we didn't believe it because of how poor they performed the last couple of years. But now that all things have sort of come together, it's almost like, if you're Lawrence Stroll, you're thinking, well, this is inevitable. I don't know what everyone's surprised about here. Yeah. Even the way he walked out. Oh, exactly. That walk, people made jokes about it, but that walk at launch, when he knew what time it was. As soon as the launch happened and he just started walking there with his little strut, he knew what time it was. And when he saw in testing what was going on with Mercedes, he thought, oh, brilliant. This is even better than I thought. So, yeah, they've had the structures in place. The pieces have been put in the right places. And that's credit to Lawrence Stroll. And you can tell that Aston Martin is dangerous, because look at what Lance did. We talk about Alonso and getting P3, and yes, we should talk about that on the podium and everything else. Lance had no hands and a broken foot, and the guy finished P6.
Chaos.
That is mad.
He was my driver of the day by far, because if you think about it, he was in surgery, 2 weeks ago prior to the race, right? And my man was even clapping at the national anthem, and he was wincing because he realized, like, oh snap, I can't just fully do anything.
I can't clap.
You know, even was it in practice when he was talking about turning the steering wheel all the way around, he said, like, I couldn't because of the hands. Guy finished P6.
Yeah. And not that far off the Mercedes, like he was there.
That was my concern. That was when I said, this is for real. This car's for real. So, that's what's going on with Aston Martin, is what I'm thinking.
You know, there's serious props do need to be given to Lance Stroll, to be honest with you.
He's nailing it, brother. And I think the only surprise isn't that they were always going to come on, right?
Yeah.
But I think that they've come on so soon. That's the surprise. People were saying potentially 2025, 2026 after the new rules and regs change again. Expect them to be up there, but that they've turned it round in like 2 years. Like, that's bonkers.
What it does give me, and I'm sure a lot of other teams, is just hope as well.
True.
To sort of see an Aston Martin go from even at the end of last season, we're talking like probably 6th/7th best car on the grid.
Yeah.
Definitely behind McLaren and Alpine for the majority, maybe challenging them at other places like Cota. To go from that to, we've actually properly overtaken Mercedes on pace. We've got better tyre wear than Ferrari, so we can maybe finish second. And that is nuts over one winter.
Bruv. Negative tyre deg, that famous race sim, that simulation stint. Alonso. I've never heard of something, and that suits Alonso and his bloody jolty style, right? So I think they definitely deserve some praise. A lot of people are like a bit suspicious of them. Everyone is green ball, those gunners look a bit familiar in those sidelines. But I think they're cause for a lot of hope and optimism there, and especially to those who say, and there are a lot of people who say that the rules and the regs haven't worked. We're not seeing better racing. Red Bull have gone down the road, and nobody. Well, yes and no. Aston Martin are a case in point that the new rules and regs are working, because we're seeing midfield teams rise up out of mid-pack, right, and challenge the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull, and that bodes well, mate.
We were joking as well. I think the regs definitely have had an impact so far, because we were joking last stream that there isn't really a midfield, or there's just a field. Like once you go past Aston Martin and Mercedes, it's a fucking free for all. It's anyone's game. Aston could be top of it, Alpine, McLaren, whatever.
Royal Rumble setting.
It is Royal Rumble.
We needed
that.
We needed that because it's been a procession for as long as I've been watching F1. There has been a 2 or 3 tier championship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 1994 as an example, Williams fighting Schumacher's Benetton. Who could compete with these bods? No one.
Yeah.
And so I think 2023 is time for that type of change, and I'm glad to see more people fight.
Very happy.
Look, listen, it's early in the season. We've had one round. Okay, we're all on the Aston Martin hype train.
It's true.
Pulled out of the station, but it's only gone. We've gone one stop. We're not across the country yet.
Yeah.
Sure. However, there are rumours that Aston are going to be as strong, if not stronger, in Saudi Arabia.
Oof.
If this can Aston Martin challenge for a championship?
My gosh, this is chaos. Chaos. I'm not sure, if only because I think Red Bull are really, really strong. What's going to be interesting this season, though, Niran, is we know that they've got this CFD and wind tunnel penalty, right? We know that didn't impact RB19 because the papers were signed on that design philosophy last year, April, and they got the penalty after April, right? But what I'm keen to see is whether there's going to be a delayed impact, whether as these other teams start to develop their cars in H2 of 2023, whether they're going to be able to catch us. So they expect necessarily to see Aston Martin challenging Red Bull at Saudi. I can't see that. Being honest, I just think that they've got Red Bull, their RB19, too aerodynamically efficient, too much straight line pace for the likes of Aston Martin and the rest. But what's going to happen later on in the season, right? That's where I'm going to start dialing in and be keen to see whether the delta starts to shrink.
Yeah, because you've got that range, that air wind tunnel range is like 60% for Red Bull. I think it's 105.
I think it is.
Is it for Aston or 110?
I think it was 105. I've read somewhere it was 105
and 63 for Red Bull.
Yeah,
it was 70, and then they've
but obviously it's been knocked off.
That's the other thing as well to remember. Where did Aston Martin finish last year? Was it P7?
Bro, I don't even know. I have no clue.
I think they were P7 last year because I think a lot of people thought it was.
They were level on points with Alfa Romeo, I think.
Okay, right. Okay.
Which way?
Whoever, So obviously that time as well, that's kind of gone in the back burner as well. They've had more time to develop than anybody else in terms of ahead of them. But do I see them challenging in Saudi Arabia? Look, I think they'll be exciting to watch. I think inevitably it will be like a Red Bull kind of clean sort of race for them. But yeah, as Cameron said, during the course of this season, when we're racing in the daytime, when we're in Spain or when we're in Imola or whatever else, like I'm intrigued. Baku, I'm intrigued to see what's going to go on there.
To this question, Niran, let me just say about the RB19, we didn't see the full gambit of their pace at Bahrain. We didn't.
Yeah, so worry. Dialed down the car towards the end.
Bruv, we didn't. Let me give you an example. Max, if you'd heard Max in testing, super happy with the balance of the car, right? Yeah. Super happy.
Yeah.
FP1, what's going on with my balance, Max says? What changed between FP1 and testing? Well, what changed is that they were concerned about eroding the skid block to where they'd get a penalty or disqualified. They can only, it's 5 or 10 millimeters, right? So they raised the ride height between testing and FP1, and that gave them those balance issues. Nailed qualifying, turned down their bloody engines during the latter stage of the race to like 8 or 7 out of 10 to manage reliability. And tyre deck, these I know it was like 0.6 on average over the course of the race. I wouldn't put it past Red Bull to have in excess of a second on the rest of the field. At 12, when they dial the engines up to 12 and are like full beans, full send. In excess of a second.
Thanks everyone for tuning into the F1 season of 2023.
I was just going to say,
it might be a wrap now.
This is against my religion, but come on, Ferrari, man. Like, we need you to rise, man. Come on, Ferrari, give us something this year, because honestly, they're the only challengers really